All right, guys, today we say goodbye to a real one. Let's do it. All right, guys, hope you're doing great out there today. But if this is your first time here, my name is Kyle, and what I do is I typically take high gain related guitar gear, I record it with a simple setup, and I give you guys the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into that sort of thing, maybe hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future uploads. But today, we're making a little bit of a sad video, a little bit of a reflection video, because number one, I'm a cornball, and number two, I sold my Soldano Avenger here. This was the first Soldano amplifier that I owned and was my introduction to a brand that I now absolutely love. So way back towards the beginning of the channel, I bought this off of a member of the Rig Talk forum. Didn't really know what to expect. I just know that I got a good price on it. It was incredibly clean, and I wanted to try a true Soldano amplifier. Now, up to that point, I had owned a couple of the Jet City amps, and I know that the Jet City amps are basically Soldano circuits, but made overseas in China, with very slight alterations to some of the components and the preamp to make them sound a little bit different. They're supposed to be a little closer to a hot rod, a Soldano hot rod circuit. And honestly, I thought that those amps sounded really, really good, and it made me very, very curious. It made me really hungry to try a true Soldano and see if the upgraded build quality and the more traditional Soldano circuit was a massive upgrade in sound. And in my opinion, it is an upgrade, but it's slight. I mean, it's gonna come down to personal preference, but is it worth the price difference? Nah, not really, to be honest. As someone with an entire wall of boutique, high gain, high dollar amplifiers sitting behind me, I can 100% say that price and tone, there is no direct correlation there. And that is a very common misconception among guitarists. I mean, really in any hobby, you're gonna have the people who automatically think that the most expensive stuff is gonna be leaps and bounds above the cheaper stuff. But when it comes to most things, there is the law of diminishing returns, which means once you get to a certain price point, the amount of improvement that you see above that price point starts to become really, really minimal. So when you're talking about something like, say, the Jet City versus the Soldano, the amount of difference that you're seeing as far as tone, as far as clarity and response and feel is definitely not as much as you might expect, considering the massive price differences. Now, at this time, the Avenger is no longer made, and this amp has never been made by anybody but Soldano. What I mean by that is Boutique Amp Distribution now manufactures the Soldano amplifier line, and at the moment, they really only make the Soldano SLO 100, which is the flagship. It's the GOAT, it's the classic, and they make the SLO 30, which is just a smaller 30-watt version of that amplifier, which I would actually really love to have in my collection again, because that thing was a little badass. But the Avenger was basically supposed to be a single channel amplifier made with more affordable components, basically just giving you a much more affordable version of the SLO 100 Overdrive channel. Now, there is a slight alteration to this amplifier. It has, I can't remember if it's the Warren Haynes or the DeMartini mod, which one it is, but there's like one value component difference in here that makes this amp slightly more mid-forward and a little bit squishier, a little bit chewier on the bottom end. So if you're a modern metal player and you're looking at an Avenger 100, not the amp for you. This one definitely has a little bit more of a vintage vibe on the low end. It's not super tight. It's not super percussive. The SLO 100 is not super tight and percussive on its own. You can do a little work to it to get it there, and the same can be said for this, but you have to do even more work to get this amp there. So anyways, that was just a really long way around to me saying, I am selling this amp because I have the SLO 100 back in my possession now. I still own a stock Jet City JCA 50, which I probably am going to do some modifications to at some point. And as hilarious as it probably is coming from me, somebody who owns probably 10 iterations of the 5150-6505 line, and at least 5 iterations of the dual rectifier, I felt that the Avenger was a little bit redundant, and at this point, I am really trying to just do away with certain amps that I just don't see the need here that are tying up a lot of cash. Now, I have used this amp live with my band Human Animal. I actually kind of prefer this amp to the SLO for that band just because it has a little bit more, to me, it has a little bit more of a punk rock vibe because the mids are slightly pushed forward and the low end is a little bit chewier. It's just not as tight and controlled as the SLO 100. But for the time being, I am choosing to just move along a couple of amplifiers that aren't going to benefit the channel. So a lot of you guys know that my channel operates by me basically buying and selling gear constantly. I try to find good deals. That way when I move the amplifier, I don't take a loss. Sometimes I make a little bit of a profit and sometimes I will trade it up in value for something else. That is basically what I try to do. It is how I am able to get all sorts of awesome stuff coming through the doors constantly for you guys to make demos and content that you guys want to see. But what that means is I don't necessarily get to keep everything I love. Now, this is obviously a personal choice. I could keep this amplifier if I wanted to. There's nothing forcing me to sell this, but there's some other amplifiers out there that I really want to get my hands on, and I gotta kind of move along some stuff to make that happen, because while I am financially stable, financially fortunate is how I like to view it, if I want to jump into the Wizard lineup of amplifiers, which I really would like to do some point here soon, then I have to get rid of a couple of other high dollar amplifiers that aren't necessarily serving me right at the moment. So that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm moving the Soldano along. It makes me sad. The Avenger 100 is an awesome amplifier. Now, I made a previous video like this about my Metzebarba M0, which was the exact same situation. Of course, I would still love to have it in my possession, but back behind me, I have the Trinity, which is the 3-channel version with MIDI capability. And it really made no sense for me to own both of those amplifiers when I could take that money and put it into other amps, which is exactly what I did. I ended up buying the Rivera K-Tray Knucklehead 100. I ended up buying the Framus Cobra. I picked up a VH140C 212 combo. I picked up a PV Bravo 112 combo. I picked up a Crate GX 600. I mean, I picked up a whole bunch of stuff with the amount of money that I sold that amplifier for that I probably wouldn't have felt comfortable spending if I hadn't sold that. Now, I'm kind of hoping for the same thing here. I'm hoping to sell this in order to get some other stuff on the channel that you guys want to see and experience for myself at the same time. So that's what we're doing. But yeah, I made a demo on this amplifier very early in my channel, and most of the comments at that time for this amp were, "This is the best tone that you have gotten." And while I wasn't absolutely in love with it for my playstyle at the time in the room, I listened back to that video and I agree, man. The tones that we got recorded with that amplifier were really, really good. So unlike the M0 video where I didn't even want to play it because I knew that I was just gonna get seller's remorse instantly when I sold that amp, this one, I'm okay with it. I'm in a place where I'm ready to let go of this thing, and I am just gonna, enjoy it one last time here with you guys on the channel, and we are gonna give it a proper belligerent amateur send-off by playing some very sloppy metal, punk, and hardcore riffs through it. So thank you, Soldano Avenger. You have served me very, very well over the last 2 years, and yeah, let's give it the proper send-off it deserves. All right, guys, so we are sitting here. I've got the Soldano Avenger on top of my old Soldano 4x12 cab. These cabs are front loaded. They're a little bit more shallow. They just have a pretty unique construction. And these are probably one of the punchiest, most direct forward sounding cabs that I have owned or played. And in my experience, they match really well with the Soldano heads. So that's why we're putting it through this one. This has V30s and K100s in it. I also have a EVH 2x12 cab over here with the stock H30 anniversary speakers, because I think that this head also sounds really good through those speakers as well. As of right now, I have the SM57 on the Vintage 30, and then I have a Loughton Audio FET condenser. It's an LA220 on the K100. I've been using this a lot lately because I love the way that this microphone pairs with the SM57. I used it to track the Human Animal stuff recently, and it's just an awesome combination in my experience. So with that being said, I'm gonna show you a couple of tricks on the Avenger in order to really tighten this thing up. Number one being the cab. The cab is a big part of it. Here is my tone, and I'll show you how I got there. And then also, of course, we are using the Balaguer Typhon with the Seymour Duncan distortion in the bridge. Here we go. yes, this amplifier sounds incredible. So that is much tighter than you would normally get from an Avenger on its own. So not only do we have an overdrive on, we've got the Boss SD1 on, a classic with the Soldano in my opinion, but I also have a 7-band EQ over here, and we are pushing the output. We are pushing the output to start the pit. We are pushing the output so that we can hit the front end of the amp harder, because on Soldano circuits, I have noticed when you get the gain above a certain point to get to a more modern level of saturation, it starts to mud up. It definitely is one of those amplifiers where you can't really push the gain too much if you're going for a percussive and like clear style rhythm tone, because it will definitely start to lose clarity, start to lose definition, and start to get, you know, a little bit floppy in the low end, and nobody likes a saggy booty. So we push the front end on the pedal as well on the EQ, and then we take out over here just an ever so slight bit of the two lowest frequencies on the sliders, which are 100 and 200 hertz, and tightening or removing a little bit of the low end going into the front end of the amplifier just really makes for an incredibly percussive tone. So again, let's here is just the amp. This is just the amp, no boost, no EQ. So we have a lot more low end, we have a lot less output, and overall it's just not nearly as aggressive sounding. So let's start by kicking on the Boss SD1. Definitely getting there, but it still needs a little bit more push on the front end, and it needs a little tiny tightening of the low end, just a tiny little bit. And now here's with both pedals on. But yeah, let's move to a different guitar real quick, because I'm feeling froggy. All right, guys, I have my LTD BK600 Bill Kelleher signature guitar here with the Lace Dissonant Aggressor pickups. Oh, God. I'm gonna miss this amp. This thing sounds so good right now. Let's move over to the Electric Eye Mud Killer. Yep, this guitar sounds incredible. This amp sounds incredible. I knew this was gonna happen. It's okay. I've got an SLO. It's okay. Let's try an EMG loaded guitar. Even with EMGs, which I don't typically love, this is the EMG 81, 24 volt mod installed. The amp sounds so good, man. It sounds so good. So good. All right, guys, so I have my 2023 Gibson Les Paul Standard here. We are in D standard, and we are gonna play one of my band's riffs. Oh, that's goodness. This guitar is sick. All right, guys, last but not least, we've got the Schecter PT Hellraiser Hybrid here with the EMG 57. We are in drop B, and we're gonna play a little hardcore riff. Here we go. I just realized I completely forgot to hook up the other cab. So let's do that real quick. One more riff. All right, guys, last riff on the EVH cab, still the same microphone setup. I have my LTD Phoenix 200 here with the Duncan distortion. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today on the Soldano Avenger 100. Saying goodbye to this amplifier. Thank you for joining me and giving it a proper send-off. What do you think about this amp, guys? Do you think I'm making a mistake selling it? What do you think about the tones I was achieving in this video? And if you have any experience with the amp, let me know down in the comments below. I'll be sure to meet you down there to talk about it. If you want to support the channel, as always, you can head down to the description of this video, click on the affiliate links, Zounds and Sweetwater, anything down there you guys click on greatly helps the channel, and I would really appreciate it. Or you can support the channel directly by adding your name to this list of incredible people and joining my Patreon community. Everything that you guys invest into the Patreon goes back into content for this channel. Blip, blip, blip. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time. You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.